Welcome back. This is episode 18 of the We Are Everywhere podcast. We have a very special guest today, a fellow Phish podcaster, but not just a podcaster, a digital strategist, podcaster, comms founder, Leslie Mack from North Carolina. Did you say North Carolina? I totally blanked.
Yes,
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Well, I'm not from there. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm from Flatbush, but
Gotcha.
I live in Charlotte, North Carolina.
That's where you're at now.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to finally have someone other than from Oklahoma on the podcast. It's so funny because I started this out and that's where I'm originally from, right? And that's where a lot of my original Phish crew is from. And so starting it out, I'm like, yeah, I'll just get all my friends on. And then I
Absolutely.
realize, the title of the podcast is called We Are Everywhere. And 90% of the
We're
guests are
everywhere
from one
and
state.
definitely in Oklahoma. We are definitely there.
Definitely in Oklahoma. But before we get into Phish, who are you? What do you got going on?
What do I have
You've
going
also
on?
host the Blackberry Jams podcast, which I think
Yes,
is amazing. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started that project, and we'll get into it.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, as I said, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I live in Charlotte now. I'm a digital strategist. What I do for my day job, comms director for an organization called The Frontline. So I do a lot of social justice work. And one of my really good friends, Lenny Duncan, who is a minister. I also do some faith organizing as well. We've known each other for years, and we're both Black people, and we both love Phish. So over the years, it's been a constant kind of conversation between the two of us about our love of Phish, our love of the scene, our love of fans as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we like jokingly would say like, oh, we should do a podcast about, Black fandom and what it's like being such a small group of such
Right.
a huge, fan base. And I think we like were tweeting about it literally on Twitter,
Oh, just
uh,
back and forth.
back and forth, just joking around. And shout out to Jay Curley from Ben and Jerry's, who literally emailed me and said, "Hey, I saw your tweet, and we'd love to support you in this endeavor."
That's
And
amazing.
so that's the kind of the story of how Blackberry Jams was born. Jay came in, and Ben and Jerry's, sponsored the show. PRX was gracious enough to come through with the production and produce the show. And so we had our first season last year. It was really amazing. We got to talk about all sorts of things. Lenny went on the road and actually went to a bunch of shows while we were recording, which was really fantastic. We had Desron Douglas from Tab on the show. And so we've just had a really great time so far talking about this great band that we love, this great fandom that we love, and kind of
Right.
where Lenny and I, our work is hard and it's heavy a lot.
Sure.
And so Phish and Fishdom and fandom is kind of our safe space. It's where we go to, let our hair down and relax
Right.
and not think about those things for a few hours at a time. And so it's just been a joy to share that part of myself. For me, it's been this really great thing of oftentimes when you're really like visible in this work, you turn into like a two-dimensional individual. You're not fully formed. And
Right.
Blackberry Jams has added such a third dimension to me publicly, and it's been really, really fun to do. So
Yeah, no, it,
yeah.
it is, it's cool. And I love hearing that like origin story. It's the things that happen organically like that seem to be like the best things. And the name of the podcast is it's perfect. Blackberry Jams. I love the logo. And shout out to Ben and Jerry's. My question is, do you guys get hooked up with the free ice cream now or what?
We have gotten a lot of ice cream. I'm not gonna lie. It's funny. Everybody asks that. I'm like, yes, we have gotten
Yeah.
several, insulated containers of ice cream. When there's a new flavor, we get them. And
Mhm.
we did get a lot when we signed the deal and officially, the announcement came out and it was in Rolling Stone and everything. So
Yeah,
that
it's
was
very
really
cool.
exciting. But yes, it's true. If you work at Ben and Jerry's, you get free ice cream. It's not a fallacy, it is fact.
Ben and Jerry's, if you're listening, hit
Thanks
me
for the
up.
ice cream. That's right. That's right.
Hit me up. So now knowing, you've got your podcasts and all the social work that you're doing, I want to kind of back up to how you discovered Phish.
Mm.
Like, what was that like first moment to where, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, weird cousin's hippie friend, had a CD in the back of their Impala, and we started listening to, Picture of Nectar. What does that story look like for you? When did you discover them, and when did you get hooked?
Yeah, so I went to a boarding school in upstate New York
Wow.
for high school. And so I was introduced to Phish there. As you can imagine, upstate New York is a hotbed of Phish
Yeah.
fandom. And so my first show that I went to was in like 1993
Oh,
at
wow.
the Palace Theater in Albany. With some like faux rich hippie white girls that were like, we're going to this thing. You should come. It's going to be fun. I was like, all right, I'll go. Sounds like something to do, which in boarding school is always what you're looking for. It's
Right. Looking to break out.
something you're looking to do something. And so went to the show. They had told me a little bit about the band, mostly, that it was they're from Vermont and they jam a lot, and sometimes it's a little spacey. That's what I remember them saying. Sometimes it's a little spacey.
Okay.
Which I thought was like code for everybody would be stoned. That was like how I read that.
Right.
I wasn't really thinking the music was going to be spacey, and then we got there and it was. And then I was super confused. The show we went to, they did like a couple of covers. They did like Obla Di Obla Da, and they did Cracklin' Rosie.
Mhm.
And I remember being like, is this I literally was like, are they a cover band? I don't get it. And they were like, no, sometimes they do covers. I'm like, they just did 2 pretty big covers. Like, and I'm a huge Neil Diamond fan. I have been my whole
Are you?
life. Yeah, huge. I mean, enormous, like really, really big.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, they're playing to me, I was sitting there like, oh my God, they're playing a Neil song, like completely unexpected. Like just, I didn't know that I was going to get to hear one of my favorite musicians played by this band I never heard of. So that was the first show I ever went to.
So so your first show, up until that point, you had never heard the band at all. It was just off the
I had
whim.
not known about Phish, but also recognized like after the fact that like, every other room had like bouncing around the room playing in it in the dorms, and like,
Right.
I was surrounded by it, but I didn't know what it was. I just knew it was like, oh, it's this music that a bunch of people listen to, but
Gotcha.
I've got Mary J. Blige playing, so whatever,
Yeah.
And so I didn't know that that's who this was, especially because their studio albums are so different from when you go to a show, and that was a new sensation for me too, of being like, oh, this is really different live than what they put out. Not the live albums, obviously, but when you listen to a studio album. And I had only heard studio album music before, and so that was another thing of me being like, oh, this is a thing. This live part of it is a separate entity. And so that was really interesting to me. I didn't go to any other shows after that. I just kind of went on my merry way. I was like, cool, that's y'all's thing. You got it. Good to go. And then I went to college. I went to Northwestern. I went to college in Chicago, where I met my husband, who is a huge Phish fan, has been a huge Phish fan since before I met him. In fact, the night that we went on our like first date, the next day he left and went to Lemonwheel.
Oh, wow.
And
Cool.
I was like, you're going where? For what? I literally remember being like, what are you you're going to an Air Force base for 3 days to see a band. See you when you get back. Like, I really was very
And had you put that together, that it was the same band that you?
I knew it was Phish.
Okay, gotcha.
When he said it, I was like, oh yeah, I know Phish. Like, I know
I've seen them. Yeah,
I've seen, I've seen them before. You like, I know a couple of their songs or whatever. I think I had, I said Bounce Around the Room. I said a few other, Tweezer or something like that. Just very like,
enough
not
to show what you're talking
about. I knew it, but I was like, that's all I knew.
Are you hype? Yeah, hype. Yeah, hype.
I only knew like a couple things. Oh, is that me? Did you?
That was you.
Oh, so sorry. I think like my music started playing. Oh my gosh.
I
thought you were adding like, some background music. I was like, cool.
No.
Nice. I like getting
I was like, oh, she's got a button bar. Are you hype?
I have a bell. That's the only thing I have. That's my only accoutrement that I have. So I knew about them, but I really was kind of like it sounded like shady to me, actually. I was like, we're on our day, we like hook up, and now you're leaving for 3 days to go to some random Air Force base. Like, this sounds very like ghosty. I don't like it.
It's like, I'll be right back. I'm going to get some milk.
And of course, this is like, we barely had cell phones, like things are not, not huge. But when he got back, and then we were together. We've been together for 20 years now, married for 20 years. I was like, well, if you're into this thing this much, like I've got to, I need to, I get my weight up. I gotta, get myself
Check it
together,
out.
and check it out. And so the first like show I went to with like real intention was an Alpine Valley show. That was in '98. And that was
Cool.
the first show that I went to with my husband. And we've been pretty diehard ever since then. For me, that show was really cool because obviously the Palace Theater was an indoor show. Alpine Valley's, iconic outdoor venue, and it's just a different vibe.
Yeah.
It's just like the circus is very much on display at the outdoor shows in a different way. And so
Oh yeah.
that was when I first was like, okay, all right. And also, I was with someone that I really loved that was there to introduce me to the scene, to introduce me to this band in such a like, gracious, loving way. And without any pretense, it was just kind of like, come, like, enjoy, like, I think you'll like this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was when I started, being more diehard. It's funny, before
Diving
coming
into
on
it.
here, I like went into Phish.net and I realized I hadn't updated my show list since before the pandemic. And I was like, shit, let me go through
Right.
and just make sure I've everything updated. And I'm at 52 shows, and my
Oh,
50th
nice.
show was the last show of the New Year's run, the
Oh,
postponement.
very.
And I
Okay,
didn't
so
know it.
this.
I didn't know the most recent one, that the one
Gotcha.
happened. I'm wearing my hat for that
I
story.
see that. I dig it.
And so yeah, so it was like I was reminiscing a little, like just looking at my show list, like, oh, all right, I got
Yeah.
a little something going on here.
Yeah, it's always fun to like relook. I use the what's it called? The Helping Friendly app.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you use, or do you just go straight
I just
to
go to
Fish?
straightfish.net. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. I think it's all tied in through like the
I
same
think it is. I think
thing.
it's the same database in the back
Yeah.
end, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is fun to like because my memory from my excitable youth, my memory is very, very spotty at times. So it helps to be like
And
have
they
it
switch
all
and blend
right there.
together, right? Like, I've been to so many Alpine Valley shows. I've been to so many Rosemont shows. I've been to so many Camden shows. Like, I've been to so many shows at the Man, because we moved, and whenever we moved, it's like, okay, well, these are our venues now. So, like, when they come here, these are the ones we're going to go to
In your area, yep.
in your area. And so, also, that's the other thing is I'm like, oh yeah, that Alpine Valley show. Which one was that? You start
Yeah.
to like they'd start to like blend together as well.
Yeah, it all comes in.
It all just like melds together. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome that you said your 50th show was on that what would have been like the New Year's night, like with the gag, right?
No. It was the day after. So it was the last
the
day
day
of the
after.
run. So
Gotcha.
my 49th show was at New Year's, with all of the
Gotcha.
fancy things. And then the next one was my 50th officially.
That's very cool. That's very cool. And so did you come away unscathed? Because I saw online a lot of people that were at those shows like just got pummeled with COVID. So
Oh, we got COVID. Yeah.
you did?
My husband and I both got
Oh no. But you're holding up okay? I
We
mean,
are. And we really had planned on, when we were going just for New Year's, when it was, December and January, we were just going to go to the last two shows because my family was visiting for Christmas. We were literally like in Charleston with them. We were going to drive back here, take a flight to New York, go right to the show, and then see the New Year's Eve and the New Year's Day show. But once we knew they moved it, we were like, well, just go to all of them now. Like, let's just go. And then it became, well, we're seeing them 4 nights at this amazing historic venue, for them, for me as a New Yorker, and just music generally speaking. So let's like pick some seats that are different and really get like the most we can out of this venue and the band. So like night 1, we sat behind the band. Night 2, we were up on the Chase Bridge, way, way up high. Night 3, I'm not kidding, I don't know how we did this. We were right at the level of the lasers, so we had the best view. And then night 4, we were dead center, so we could see Karuta's full new, light display. And it was great, seeing the band these 4 nights, but from 4 different places in in Madison Square Garden, 4 different angles, 4 different ways of looking at them. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I saw I follow you on Instagram, but I also follow Blackberry Jams, and I think it was either you or Lenny. I'm assuming it was you posted the pictures and some
Mhm.
videos and
Yeah,
stuff
I
from
was
the run.
posting I did like little like, TikTok like recaps
Yeah,
of each of the nights. Yeah, it was a great time.
it looked
And
like a blast.
it was a blast, we did get COVID, but
Hey, if you're
it
gonna get
happens. It happens.
if you're gonna get COVID, it might as well be seeing your favorite band 4 nights in a
Might as
row.
well be, might as well be. There are
Yeah.
worse reasons to, right? Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you and your husband and your crew are, even though you got it, I'm glad that you're not in a hospital bed. I'm glad that
No, I
you
mean,
guys are,
we were boosted, we're
yeah,
vaccinated, we were ready, and
yeah, it helps.
it helps. It helped a lot. It helped a lot. So yeah,
So after, okay, so your Phish journey starts, we're gonna say it starts in 93 because
yeah,
that counts,
it
even
counts.
though
I was
it
there,
counts.
but
Yeah, you were there. So 93, then 98, and
yeah,
then obviously you're still seeing shows like you saw a show last month.
yeah.
Out of all of those times and after all of this time you've had to spend with Phish and their whole catalog, do you have a favorite year of Phish that you like to dial into?
I have to say 99 because
Very
Big Cypress
underrated.
was so seminal for me as a Phish fan. It was my first like camping, event that I had gone to. And my husband, he was at the Great Wad, he went to Lemon Wheel. So
Hit
he
them
was
all.
like, he went to all of them. And so he was kind of like, yeah, we camp out, it's gonna be great. We had like 8 people, we like drove down from Chicago. It was like this whole big thing. And so the lead up to that, we went to Rosemont, we went to Alpine Valley. That year, that was the year that I was like, oh, like this is my band. Like
Hit it the hardest.
they for me,
Yeah.
yeah. And really, just capping it with Big Cypress was just an
God,
amazing experience. It was so great.
I can't even imagine. So did you make it through the whole?
We made it. We
Okay.
made it through the whole thing. We did. I will admit I took a big nap that day. It
You
was
have
hot,
to.
but I took a nap that day in preparation because I just figured like when is this ever gonna
Yeah.
happen again?
It's
And
not.
also, people forget about the hype around the millennium. Like,
Oh.
uh, uh, do the
Everybody thought
children
their computers were gonna blow up.
do the children know? Like literally, we had no idea what was gonna happen. And I
Yeah.
figured there were worse places to be if everything really like went as haywire as they thought it could,
Right.
right? Due to coding errors or whatever, which was the lamest thing. But anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, so we stayed up through the whole thing and fully experienced it. We got to Florida the night before. This is my funny Big Cypress story. We got there the night
Okay.
before, and so we didn't have a long drive. I think we had maybe 2.5, 3 hours from where we had waylaid before we could get into Big Cypress. So we're in Alligator Alley thinking we're in the worst traffic ever. Get in and realize we're really fucking early. Like really early. I'm
Like a
talking
day
like
early? Like,
not a day early, but I just know like at 6 hours after we had already gotten everything set up and we're just wandering around looking at things, we had walked sort of to the edge where you could see, the road a little bit and it was just headlights. I mean, you couldn't that's all you could see was just headlights. And I remember hearing people say, "Oh, we didn't get in till 6 a.m. We didn't get all
oh
this
my
stuff."
God.
And we thought we had it bad, and then we realized. And
You got it
the
good.
fact, yeah, we had it really good. Like none of the porta potties had been used. Like it was that level of early.
Yes.
It was like, yes, you could see like, they have like the when they screw into the porta potties, it has like the shavings from the plastic.
Yep.
That was still in the porta
There you
potties.
go. That's how you know it's a good one.
It was a fresh.
Freshies.
Freshness. And so we just were kind of amazed at once we realized like, oh, we got here actually kind of early and enjoying being there that early, having like our 8 tent set up. We had a little
Yeah.
seating area and everything. And then watching just headlights. Of course,
Never
after the fact,
stopping.
now we know it was like the largest traffic jam in the history of the United States. So
Right.
we were in it, but we didn't have it that
Not
bad.
in it.
Not
Like,
in it.
you
Yeah,
got out before it was,
we did.
God, and I can't even imagine. It's like I fantasize, because all of these Phish, festivals, Lemon Will, Great Went, and all this stuff. Like I always fantasize. I'm like, man, like I feel like I missed like this like heyday of like going and like getting to see. But I was like, 7, 8, 9, 10 years
Yeah.
old at the time. Like,
Yeah,
and so
then, yeah.
you can't be doing it. And I'm like, man, like that would have been great. And like, especially with Big Cypress, I'm like, God, that would have been like the pinnacle. But fast forwarding now to my own experiences with shows, I have like by the time Encore is done, I'm like, let's
Sounds
get off
good.
these feet.
Yeah.
Let's go to bed. So I can't even imagine.
It's one of the biggest things I say to people about Phish shows is like, I don't sit, like I don't sit down. Like my
Right.
whole thing is like they're grooving, I'm grooving.
Yeah.
So the
What you're
whole
there
point,
for.
the whole point is to be up and in the mix. And I will admit it's gotten harder as I've gotten older. This run was an eye opener for me for sure, especially after so much time, not going to shows. I just was kind of like, oh, I forgot just how taxing this experience is. Amazing, but also like physically, there's a component to it. Especially
Absolutely.
at Madison Square Garden. Trey talks about this a lot about how MSG actually the way they built it when the crowd really gets going,
Oh, the floor.
the floor moves.
Yeah.
And Trey says that sometimes they can get everybody in the same rhythm, everybody really moving, and his mic will hit him. He has to like physically move back from it. And so I'm always like, that's where I want to be. I want to be wherever everybody's rocking so hard that Trey has to step back from his mic. That's the sweet spot right there.
That is the sweet spot, literally.
That's the goal.
I love that. And on the last episode, I was talking with one of my buddies, and he was kind of roasting me, not about MSG, but about Dick's. Because every year that we go to Dick's, we kind of have this spot that we hang out like towards the back behind, even the soundboard. And he was like, I don't know why you guys want to like pay out the ass, to like go see Phish and then like stand at the back. And I'm like, I was making my case of like, hey, if I got to go to the bathroom, it's easier, less hectic. Right. If I want to get a beverage, it's right here. I don't got to fight, I can move around, I can dance, I can breathe. And he's like, nah, man. He's like, I want to be up front, getting blasted with every note.
Lenny is a rail writer and he is very serious about it. Page side, rage side all day. Like he
up there fighting Antelope Greg.
My friend Tyler, I hope he'll see this. So hi Tyler. He's the friend that when you get to the show, he disappears, like poof, he's gone. No matter what, you know what I'm talking about, where you're just like, oh, he's gone. And then at the end, he pops back up. Sup, guys? How are you? So it's always that funny thing. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, Tyler, we'll see in a few hours kind of thing. We know we're going to lose him to the rail at some point. And Lenny's the same way. I am not a rail rider. I'm definitely a stake my spot out type of person. But yeah, I love it.
Yeah, no, there's no wrong way. Like, there's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. Or was that Reese's or Oreo?
No, it's wrong way to eat Reese's.
Yeah, there's no wrong way to see Phish.
It's true. It's all good. And this MSG run really proved that for me. Even, when we were sitting behind the band, I was telling my husband, I said, well, I haven't seen them so closely be able to see how they interact with each other. Being right behind them, it's like, oh, you can see when they're signaling to each other, when nodding. They're leaning over, nodding, pointing. You can't see all of that when you're so far away. So it's really cool to experience that and really see how they interact with each other, which was pretty cool.
Behind the scenes, literally.
Behind the scenes, that's right. And at MSG, the sound behind them is outstanding. So
is it good?
Yeah, they have a whole. It's basically set up the same as the front of the stage, so the sound is fantastic. Very I won't recommend that seat to all the venues, but at MSG, it got 2 thumbs up for me.
Okay. I've still never. I was talking about this in the last episode too. I've still never been to MSG, and I feel like I'm missing out on like a whole new aspect or a whole different aspect of my favorite band. It's like one of those like rites of passage. It's like you have to see them there. So.
It's
next time they play, I gotta go.
It's very obvious they love it, and I think that's the thing I talk about when I say how much I love Phish. Is the joy that they have is what we all absorb, and vice versa. They're not a band that's just out there like phoning it in. They're not a band that gets on stage and it's just a job to them, although it is their job and it's a business.
What a great job, though.
What a great job, right? But the beauty of it is how they come together musically, individually, visually in some ways. Sometimes we get some fun stuff there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the beauty of Phish. Yeah.
It is. It
The,
is. And there's
the harmony of it all. Yes.
yeah, the harmony. No pun intended.
No pun.
Okay, let's get into some hard-hitting questions.
Okay.
One of the impossible questions I like to ask on here is
I'm nervous.
favorite jam
Oh.
of all time.
Like a
the
specific show or just like a song I like to hear them jam?
well, so we can talk about favorite songs too, but I'm talking like Desert Island.
Oh.
You can take one Phish jam with you,
Wow.
and that's all you can listen to for the rest of your life. What jam comes to mind?
I've never had such a hard question asked of
impossible.
me in my entire life. I'm trying to even think of how I would like narrow it down. I think I
Right.
would have to start with the show. I
Yeah.
feel like that's what I'd have to start with.
Okay, so what show pops in your
So
head?
the thing that pops in my head is 2014 the Man shows. We lived in Philadelphia for 10 years. So
Okay.
we've seen a lot of shows at
Oh, I'm sure.
yeah, we've seen a lot of shows at the Mann Center. And so I'm thinking about, I want to say, wow, I'm really trying to think of.
Let me see if I'll pull up the set list.
Oh my
Phish,
gosh.
the Man.
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of what song I would pick. It would definitely be one of those shows. I remember them very, very distinctly. My birthday is July 4th, and it was right after my birthday.
Okay, yeah. So
I really remember. I remember these two shows.
Yeah, it says it was the 9th.
Oh my gosh.
Chalk Dust.
Maybe Chalk Dust. No, the 8th was the one I think would be the one.
The 8th. Okay.
And I want to say, they did a Tweezer into Ghost in that show, I think.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing that right now. Tweezer into Ghost into 2001.
I'll pick that. 2001.
I like that.
I'm always praying for 2001. That's
Mhm.
I don't know, but what song are you always going into shows like, hoping for?
Oh, it's funny. What a perfect segue, because that's one of the questions I wanted to ask. What song are you chasing? For me, I've never gotten to see Brother live.
Mm.
And it's one of those ones where me and one of my buddies, like from my original like Phish crew, like day one, we always, whenever we first started seeing shows, we were like, oh, I want to get a brother. And then 12 years later, we still haven't gotten a brother. So it's like this big built up thing at this point.
Yeah.
But that's
2001's one I'm always chasing. I think because the first time I heard them play it, it like blew my mind completely.
yeah.
Especially with Karuta, I love the staging of Phish shows generally speaking, but Chris, being the 5th member of the band and really adding a specific type of entertainment value to the shows.
Yeah.
And 2001 is one where he shows out, like just goes at it.
Goosebumps right now.
Right?
Yeah.
So I always go into a show like, oh, I hope they play 2001. I hope they play 2001. And then I do, I have to say David Bowie's another one of my faves because it's so dancey. And so I just always love to hear that as well. I've seen a lot of them, not as many 2001s. That is not high rotation song.
Right.
So that's one I'm usually chasing most of the time.
David Bowie, which you mentioned, like that's one of my favorite, like as far as jam vehicles go, I always get so happy and so excited whenever they start Bowie, as long as I don't get mazed. That's happened to me a few times. I'm like, oh, Bowie. I'm like, nope, it's mazed. But you literally, it can go
dark,
anywhere. It can go happy. It can go
go all over the place.
You don't know what's happening.
I've heard it go metal-ish a few times too. Like
I'm here for it.
It's such a great song. I saw somebody tweet the other day. They wondered if Phish had ever met David Bowie before he passed, and I wonder if they have. I don't know, but
you would. It's not impossible to say that. Rock stars meet rock stars all the time. But
I feel like Trey maybe would have met them. Maybe, I don't know. Met David Bowie, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. We'll either he'll be on your podcast or he'll be on this podcast, and we can ask him.
We can ask him. That'll be my first question. So Trey, have you met David? Did you ever meet David Bowie though?
Did you meet him?
Did he know that you had this song that he was heavily featured in, and basically it was just his name over and over again? Did you?
Yeah.
Does he know? Does he know?
Does he know? Is he aware? Was he aware?
Did he know before he passed? Did he know?
So, So we talked David Bowie and also 2001. You've
Yeah.
seen both of those live.
Yes.
Is there a song that you're chasing that you haven't seen live, that you haven't gotten yet?
No,
Nope, those are the two ones.
I've been extremely lucky. I've also been to multiple day runs, which I have to say is the best way to get any song that you're trying to hear, because
Yeah.
4 days, 3 days, it's the well's only so deep. You know what I mean? Like, they're gonna
Yeah.
be playing most of the stuff.
Yep.
So I've been lucky enough, I fell in love with Gayute like very
Mhm.
early on, and I've got to hear that a bunch of times. I love Slave to the Traffic Light. I love Soam. I'm just thinking of the ones that Free.
Oh yeah.
I could cry just every time I hear Free. I almost like burst into tears. On our show, we had this amazing woman named Afrobella from Miami. She's a beauty blogger, Black woman, and she came on the show. She had hit me up when we launched the show, and she was like, "I didn't know you were a Phish fan. I have a story to tell." And I was like, "Oh, what's your story?" And she told me she's originally from the Bahamas, and her husband
Oh,
had
wow.
been on vacation, and they were coming back and going to Miami, and they were going to go to a Phish show. And she had seen them, and she was a big Dave Matthews fan, which, a lot of overlap in those
It's an
fans.
easy segue.
Easy
Yeah.
segue. And so they were gonna go to the show. They got back here and she got detained.
Oh
She got
shit.
detained at the airport, and they were threatening to deport her, because she was on a student visa, which she was still in school, so she shouldn't have had a problem, but they decided that it was a problem. They had kept them there for like 4 hours, all of this stuff.
Damn.
So they finally get out, they go home, and he's like, "Do you still wanna go to the show?" She's like, "Fuck yeah, I wanna go to the show." They go to the show, and about 3 songs in, they break into Free, and she just burst into tears because she literally was detained.
Right. It's
And then
a deeper meaning
the
at that
deeper
point.
meaning of it,
Yeah.
right, for her. Anyways, if anybody if you go listen to Blackberry Jams, make sure you listen to the episode. The story is really, really amazing and really moving. But that's the power of Phish, right? She
Yep.
is not a huge Phish fan, and yet they were able to not just move her in that way, but like get her back to
Yeah.
herself.
And
She
it's
really
deeper. Yeah.
just really get her back to herself. And so yeah, I love Free. Carini. I mean,
Oh yeah.
what we could just go on and on. Like, how many
Just
hours
name
we
every
got?
song.
Just
The
all
one
the songs.
the one song that I get emotional like that with 90% of the time is Reba.
Oh,
Because there's such a, and Reba's, they can go different places, but for the most part, you kind of know not where the jam is going, but you kind of know like the feeling that
Yeah.
you're going to get from it,
Yep.
whether that's, you want to call it blissful or I don't know the word, but it feels like a blanket to me,
Yes.
and
It envelops you, right? It's like
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's that feel good, like, your kid sucking on your thumb type feeling. It's a really weird way to describe a Reba
Oh,
jam,
it's
but
true though. It's true.
that's the one that like gets me emotional. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
this is taking me to a different place that I don't normally exist in. And
Mhm.
it's whatever song that is for, whoever's listening to Phish or experiencing Phish. I mean, there's always that one.
At one, yeah,
Yeah.
that would just move you in that way
Mhm.
and get really emotional. Yeah, I definitely, and it also sometimes it's about like your mindset too, right?
Yep.
Sometimes sometimes I'll be just really hyped up, and I'm like, I hope they really
Yeah.
like I hope they do a
Go.
dark like dank Carini. I'm ready for it. And other
Yeah.
times I'm like, I hope it's light. I hope it's
Mhm.
airy. I hope we get a
Wanna
lot of
dance.
yeah. I want to like groove more.
Yeah.
So that's been really great. And then obviously we go see Tab a lot as well.
I still
Which
need to do that.
you have to,
I have to.
especially this particular formation of the band. It's
Mhm.
really, really special, like really special. And Trey is I've never seen him have this much fun, like period.
He's
Uh
in a very good spot.
yeah. Have you
And
been seeing his Instagram videos? Have you been watching them?
which ones?
He's been doing these like guitar and music lessons on Instagram.
Oh, yeah. No, I've seen those on
Really interesting.
I've seen those on Facebook where he'll like it's like 6 a.m. You can tell he's
Yeah,
like
well,
just woken up.
that's his thing. Every morning he gets up and he plays, and so he
Yeah.
just decided this was a way. And it's so interesting because I feel like he's been, I don't know, a little arm's length from the fandom over the years. I think it must be really overwhelming to have so many people, revere you and you be such a big part of their lives, even though you don't know them at all. I imagine it being a bit overwhelming. And
It
so,
has to be.
I get that, I even get that sometimes in my work where people think they know me, but they don't. And I'm like, you're being really weird right now. I'm just a person, so don't be a psycho. But,
Yeah.
but it feels like the pandemic loosened something in him, and his interactions with the fandom now has been really personal, very one-on-one, very unfiltered. Even the posts that he's been posting after the tab shows, this run that they're on right now, you can tell it's him. He's like, oh, we had such a great time tonight. And I can just hear it's his voice. It's not some
Yeah.
social media manager that like typed it out for him.
Right.
And it's, I don't know, I'm happy for him. That's what I'll say. I'm really happy for him. Yeah.
So am I. And I've noticed that like even with like it's a thing whenever people get older, and I don't want to say it's like the impending doom of death is getting closer every day. That's a dark way to think about it. But I've noticed like even with people in my family, like parents and stuff, like
Yeah.
as they age and get older, there's this extra sweetness or this extra like openness to
Yes.
the world and other things that it really comes out in people, and I feel that with Trey too. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not old by any means,
No,
but
no. He's
I
he's
think
still he's still out here moving and grooving and doing it great,
yeah.
dressing very well. I'm obsessed with his shoe collection. It's like one of my favorite things. Um,
That is one thing. I love how the internet now, it's like anytime there's a show that's being played, within after the first song is done, you
all
get on
outfit,
Twitter, yeah,
everything is there. The whole
H&M
thing.
shirt.
H&M shirt, $20,000 glitter sneakers, whatever it is.
Right.
I
People are
bought 2
on it.
shoes already because of Trey.
Really?
Yes, literally.
I
And
wanna
another
get on some of Paige's shirts.
he wears a lot of women's shoes. I don't know if he has small
Does
feet
he?
or if he just likes them. I don't know what his shoe size is, but it's really because the first pair I bought is from this company called Low, and it's from Britain, but they have like an L on the side. Mine was
Okay.
messy. So I was like, oh, like I need these shoes.
I know what shoes you're talking
You know
about,
the
yeah.
ones I'm talking about.
Those are
And
definitely women's
I
shoes.
went in, I'm like, oh, they're women's shoes. I was like, oh, they're definitely for me. And so it's been like this thing now. My husband's like, please don't go onto that freaking Twitter account. We can't afford any more Trey shoes. Like, it's enough already. I just bought a pair of Nikes he wore the other night, yesterday. I was like,
Really?
find these. I need them. These black puffy Nikes that he was wearing. Also women's shoes.
Wow, maybe
Yeah.
maybe he's got little feet. Maybe he just
Even
likes
New
women's
Year's,
shoes.
the glitter shoes he wore on New Year's were women's shoes as well. They
Interesting.
don't have them. I couldn't get them. They're
Couldn't
sold
find
out.
him.
No,
Dude,
they're
Mike's
sold
shoe
out. They're
game
sold out.
is
No. Okay. Can we take a minute and talk about Gordo for a second? I want to
Yeah.
talk about it because who would have guessed he would be the most fashionable, and this is just me, as a woman talking, best looking as he got older of the quartet.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
really grew into this like really interesting, like funky, but like rock star vibe. His hair is always on point.
It all started with the haircut. Whenever he
Listen,
went
when he
from
got that, he went from there to there. It was like a whole new thing happened.
starts
And
wearing
now
scarves.
scarves are out. At MSG, he took his jacket off at one point. The place went fucking nuts. It was so funny. I was like, look at this. People are screaming for Gordo to take his jacket off.
And then like you look at like that would be a good from like those memes, like how it started, how it's
How is
going.
it going?
Like
Yeah.
from Clifford Ball when he looks like a highlighter, like
Literally to now
everything's
where it's
neon,
like,
yeah.
oh, he's like designer head to toe, like
Yeah.
everything impeccably and he that's what he posts most of the time, even on
Yeah, his
his
shoes.
social media. It's always his shoes, it's his
cats.
outfit, his whatever's happening, what he's
Yeah.
wearing. I love all of that. It's so great.
Yeah, no, they're all, and I'm so glad that, Trey especially, I'm glad that they're all healthy and
Yes.
in like good, mindsets, because the healthier they are and the better mindset that
Better,
they're in, the more
absolutely.
we get to experience this for as long as they're able to
For
do
sure.
it.
And we've seen so many bands just like flame out, burn out.
Yeah.
My husband and I always go through the list because there's always the next to Phish, right?
Yeah.
The next
Who's up
contender.
next?
Goose apparently is what I hear.
Been hearing a lot about Goose.
Shout out to Goose. I've seen them 3 times now. We're gonna go see them again in a couple weeks. I'm
Okay.
staring at 2 Goose posters in my
Are you?
office. My husband's really into them. He just went to 2 shows back to back. He went to Charleston and he went to Asheville. I couldn't. I had to work. But yeah, so it's always that thing of like, oh, who's gonna be the next one? I mean, we've seen them at Leftover Salmon and Humphreys and
Yeah.
all of these groups that weren't able to quite hold it all together. And I think
Right.
some of that is because of, Phish is their friends. They started out that way. It wasn't just a band to them.
Yeah.
One, it was school. So that's the first thing. But
Yeah.
also, this was a labor of love for them. And I don't know if they didn't know what it was going to turn into.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're so right about them being healthy together.
Mhm.
And I know there's like this thing on tour now. Trey is out. His vehicle is gone
Oh, yeah.
before like
Yeah.
anything has happened. Like he's already like in bed, like done.
Yeah. Last note is played, and 30
He
seconds
is
later,
off. He's not talking to nobody
Mm-mm.
backstage. He's not having no conversations. Like
See you guys at sound check.
Bye. See you next time.
Yeah.
Like, he's out. But
I
I
don't
think
blame
it's
him.
great to see, him have find a balance, right, in his life
Mhm.
to be able to do that. We went to see him, he did that Broadway show, Hands on a Hard Body. He wrote a
Mhm.
Broadway play. My husband and I went to see it, and got to meet him. He was
Oh,
there
cool.
the day that we went to see it, and it was cool. I just thought it was, so indicative of him as a musician to always want to be stretching himself, doing something else, trying something new, trying something different.
Right.
And it's what keeps Phish so fantastic because
Yeah.
he's never satisfied. Like,
Right.
period.
Yeah. No. And that's the beauty of it, because I feel like we all see that within Trey a lot, because like you
Mhm.
just mentioned, he's doing the Broadway stuff. He's
Sure.
doing stuff with Tab.
Orchestras. He's doing all the stuffs. Yeah.
And I feel like even with the rest of the members in the band, I feel like they have that same thing too,
Mhm.
but maybe just don't highlight it as much.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Mike with
Sure.
Leo.
Mhm.
I always mess his last name up. Leo Kotke.
Is it
Kotke?
Kotsky? I
Kot
never can say it either,
Yeah,
but
you know who I'm talking about.
y'all
Like,
know.
you see
What
him
yeah, come on.
you see him shine a little bit different over there, and it's having all of their it's yeah, it all starts, you nailed it. It starts with the friend group,
Mhm.
and you even hear him say that in Bittersweet Motel,
Yep.
whenever they're talking, they're like, "We didn't try for any of this. We were just like
No.
playing music as friends, and this is what it turned into."
This is
So
what it
it's
turned into, and it turned into that for so many of us too, right? And so
right.
that's the part of it that's so, interesting. We went to Big Cypress, and we also went to it. And
Oh,
when we went
wow.
to it, we did like a huge. It was like 10 of us. We had like 4 cars. We camped out at Acadia National Park for like a couple days beforehand, and we made a whole trip of it. And they played Camden right before that the festival. So we
Mhm.
went to Camden. We were living in Philly. We all went to that show, and then we hit the road the next morning, like just like this did, to head up to Maine. And I remember that being like, oh, um, it it was a different vibe than Big Cypress because it wasn't quite as like the largesse wasn't there. I mean, obviously the Millennium was huge, but I
Right.
remember, going into it and thinking like, okay, this is um this suspended reality, this
I like that.
created community
Mhm.
that is able to be held together by this music for whatever amount of time that we're there together. And it's such a loving space. I mean, people are so kind to each other. I say this all the time. It's my favorite thing to talk about how, I've never felt uncomfortable as a woman at a Phish show. I've never felt in dire straits. I swear I've seen somebody do something really off and like 17 people like, "Hey, knock that shit off." Like,
Yeah, we don't do that
it's
here.
a lot of, community driven accountability that's built into this fandom that you do not find in most fandoms, and it's really, really special.
It's very special, and it's one of the things that I've talked about quite a few times. With running the risk of sounding cliche and corny, it is a family. Like
Mhm.
it's we're all in this together. I mean, and it's beautiful, and it's one of those things that you can't, unless you're in it and have experienced it. It's gonna sound like someone
It is.
being
It
corny,
it
like,
sounds like that can't really be true. Like, it
but
can't
it
be.
is. It
It
is.
can't be that, we were in this, traffic jam going up to Maine, and my husband fell asleep and, like, accidentally rear-ended somebody, and the dude was like, "It's alright."
You good.
Like, "You're good." Like, "Oh,
We're going to the same spot.
we're all going in there. It's fine. We're going in there."
Yeah.
It's always those things that I remember and think about, and that's an extension of the band. It's how they've cultivated, this fandom and this culture around them. That I think some people write off as like, oh, it's just a lot of drugs, which of course there are a lot of drugs, but
Yeah.
it goes beyond that because lots of fandoms have a lot of drugs, right? That's not a unique thing
Right.
amongst rock bands, amongst,
You go
all
to
sorts
an
of.
NFL game and
Literally,
get
like,
drugs,
this
like
is not a new thing. So it's not that. That is not the special thing. It
yeah.
helps, but that's not the special thing. That's not the special thing, yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, that's one of those misconceptions, because of the, stereotypical, like, "Oh, you're going to see the hippie band, you get high and do a bunch of drugs." And it's like, sure, I mean, you made the point perfectly. Yeah, there's drugs there. You can get, it's like Alice's Restaurant. You can get anything you want on
Absolutely.
Fish Lot,
You want it,
but
it's there.
that's not that's not why we're there. I'm sure there's
Of
people that are
course,
there to
of course.
party and make money and do whatever,
All
but
the things.
for the most part, people are there for one thing, and then if you have some party favors, you have some party favors.
Even better. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, true.
One of the things that I like to get into on this show, because it kind of adds a little bit of controversy, because
Mhm.
we all love Phish.
Yes.
We both host Phish podcasts.
It's true.
We know we love Phish, but one of the things that I like to add is, you have people after every show that are, "Oh, this was off," or "This,
Oh,
it's been going on since the band
right.
started.
Yeah.
Oh, this wasn't good, or that wasn't good, or
Mm.
they missed this change, blah, 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 blah." But I wanna focus on songs, because
Mm.
over the course of the band, over
Yep.
this 30 plus years, the songwriting, the albums, everything has evolved and changed. We've seen the, compositions, we've
Yep.
seen the dark, we've seen the light, and now for this 3.0 era, it feels like a lot of the songwriting is,
Is it 3 or is it 4?
that's a whole
That's the
that's
question
the
right
question.
there, okay, 'cause
Okay, so
that's the question.
we'll say 3.0, 4.0
Yeah.
era
Yes.
in this new era. A lot of it's been like, the "I love you, you love me, we're a ball of energy and light, and we're
Yeah.
vibrating." And it gets, just like the stuff, from the 1.0 era, it gets some hate and
Yep.
it gets some love.
Of
So
course.
out of all of the songs in the library, it doesn't have to be 3.0, 4.0, it can be something old school. Do you have a song that you would be okay with never hearing again?
Mm.
I feel like everybody has a pee break song.
Yeah, it's like the song where it's like, "Okay, I can go. I
I
could
can
go to
go,
the
yeah.
bathroom. I could go now. I could go right now."
Mhm.
Let me think. Mm,
I've been surprised in the past at some answers, because you have like the low hanging fruits, like "If
yeah,
Time Turns Elastic" and things
sure.
like that.
I mean, this is gonna be so people are gonna hate me. If I say this, people are gonna hate me. This is the position you're putting me in. I have to say Divided Sky, and this is why.
Okay,
I've heard it too many times.
okay.
It's the only reason. It's not that I don't like the song. It's a great song. Obviously, it's beautiful, but I've seen it. I don't think that there's something they're gonna do with it that I haven't seen, and so I'll say that because that's just from my 50 shows.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, "Okay, I've got that one." Like,
No, and I don't think that one's gonna be as controversial as you think,
you don't think so?
because
I feel like people who love Divided Sky, it's like people have that's like their, like, I am name, when they first went on Instant Messenger. It's like
Divided Sky 12.
73. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
many Phish fans are so into that song.
And it's one of those ones that's like it's been around for a while. But to your point, if you've seen One Divided Sky, you've seen them all. And like whenever it starts, you're not like, oh my God, what type 2 craziness am I gonna get right now?
No.
What am I gonna miss? Yeah. So the pause between this time is gonna be 37 seconds instead of 2 minutes. Like
Exactly.
you're not missing anything. So I don't think it's as controversial. It sounds worse than it is.
I'm like, ugh, you're gonna make me actually say this? No.
On one of the past episodes, I had Rachel Wesley on, and she what did she say? She said Character Zero
Ooh.
was a no-go for her, and I was like, what?
Wow.
That's the one I felt like was controversial.
That's controversial.
I was like, how do you not like that one?
They don't play it that much. Like it's not one we hear constantly. Yeah.
And it's like a good, set closer. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, right, yeah, let's go.
Yeah. My husband would definitely say Tweezer. He's like, it's enough with it. It's enough.
He doesn't like Tweezer?
Especially as an encore, it irks him to no end. He's
No
like,
way.
if I hear one more Tweezer encore, I'm gonna like,
oh my gosh.
he's like an angry old man in the back.
Oh my gosh, I would argue like I'm the exact opposite. Like if I hear a Twee Prize ender, like if you heard like a monster tweezer in the show, like that leaves me like on a high note. Like I'm taking my shirt off and stuff. Like
He's just like, yeah, he's not into it. I guess if I had to name a second song, it just might be Bounce Around the Room because I just think it's cheesy. But some of that is just like leftover high school like trauma, I think. To be total, if I'm being like really frank, it's such a like personal thing.
Sure.
But I also like just associate it with like faux fans. That's what I associate it with. And so to me, it's always just like, oh, they're playing fucking Bounce Around the Room.
Like a radio hit almost.
Yeah, it is their version of a radio hit. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
God.
next up we have Bouncing
Bouncing
Around the Room
by the Phish.
The
They always
Phish.
say the Phish. They always say the Phish.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, and we've touched on some memories from tour and like how you got started, anything. But what are some of those memories that you're comfortable with sharing?
Yeah.
That stick out? You've touched on going to Big Cypress and it.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of those memories from either that tour or tours that you've just been on? Like just fun memories from the road from seeing Phish.
Yeah. So I do have a funny so one of my favorite stories about just Phish fandom. It's not about the band, but it is about the fandom itself.
Sure.
When we went, I just mentioned we went to Ed and we had this huge caravan. I happened to be working. I've had like 17 lives, and at the time I was working as restaurant manager, and so I got my kitchen manager to like hook us up. He got us like boxes of burgers and I told him how many people and how many nights and all the things, and he just like hooked us up. So we had we had a grill with us. We had all the things, and so
that's dope.
We went camping beforehand. We go in, we set our stuff up. We've got everything together, and we quickly realized we have way too much food. Like, I mean, there's no way we're gonna eat all of this food in the time.
Worst problems to have.
There are, because a lot of people. The guy that my husband hit, literally, he opened his trunk and there was nothing in it, and I looked at him and I said, "Sir,
what are you planning on doing?
What are you gonna do in there? What's gonna happen to you?" I saw him like a couple of days later, like shirtless, just running around crazy. I was like, Drew, there he is.
That's why he didn't care that you.
That's why, because he was about to be a madman for 4 months. Anyways, that's not even the story. So we decide, we're like, well, there's hungry people here. We've got food. Let's just start, turn the grill on and we did like $5. You got like a burger or a hot dog, a bag of chips and a drink, right? So we just start selling food just right outside where we had our little area. And we actually ended up all of us made money. We went home with money from the trip because of this. After the second night show, we came back and we decided we were hungry. So we turned the grill on and we start cooking. These motherfuckers started lining up, Clay. And I looked over and go, we're not selling any food. We're just eating.
We're closed.
We're closed. That's one of my favorite, just because people are like, food is happening. We're just going to stand here and get some. Like, it was.
I got one earlier.
I got one. Yeah, I got one for lunch. Like, come on. The burger was good. So yeah, that's a good tour memory for me. I just remember us all just cracking up at just like a line forming with us
No,
not
no,
even,
no.
no. We're just trying to make some grilled cheeses real quick for ourselves because we're
You
hungry.
get the broom out. You're like,
Like,
get out of
go, get out of here, get out of here.
Yeah.
So that sticks out to me. And I'm trying to think if there's any other like really good stories that I think would be funny to tell. That one just always cracks me up because it's so indicative of the fandom of just like this expectation of community, right? Um,
Let me get one.
and like what's happening right now?
Yeah.
So it was really funny. I'm glad it wasn't my first camping show because I would have been very just disturbed by all of it.
You're like, what's
But
going on?
like, what's happening right
Yeah.
now? So that was a really good one. And then I'm trying to think, gosh, if there was any other ones.
Yeah, it's hard, like on the spot, because it's like
Yeah,
like we were saying
I
earlier,
just
it all blends
yeah, it all
together.
blends together. It just starts to like just like run together from one another.
Yeah.
Boardwalk Hall was really great. I just
What was?
remember Boardwalk Hall. They did the Atlantic
Oh,
City run
yep.
for Halloween. And that was the wingsuit year. So I just remember that being really cool. Just being like, these motherfuckers are playing a new whole album right now.
Yep.
I just remember being like, with this band, they will not stop surprising us. And I
Yep.
think that's the biggest takeaway. I know people that are like big Stones fans or big whoever fans. Yeah, you're gonna go to their show. I'm gonna go see the Red Hot Chili Peppers in September.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
I could probably write their set list right now.
Well, they
Like,
got a new album out, right?
yeah, they're not gonna do that much of the album. They're gonna do like 2, maybe 3 songs from that album. Let's be
Take me
clear.
to the place I
It's gonna be
love.
Under the Bridge. It's gonna be all the they playing their hits, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's what's gonna happen.
Uh-huh.
Phish is not that band,
Yeah.
and they always, are able to continue to surprise us. I know that that's the joy that they continue to bring. I think it's why that they still stay together is because there's still more shit to do. There's still fucking whales to fly around Madison Square Garden, okay? There's still more stuff to do.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of Phish. That's
It
why I love them
is.
so much. They're so great.
They're the Forrest Gump of bands. You never know what you're gonna
Yeah.
get.
You never know. You never know. When you show up, it could be anything. It
It
could be
could.
anything happening.
And that's what's beautiful.
And that's the beauty of it all. And it just makes I think it makes the fandom fun because we all are like, oh, this new thing happened.
Mhm.
And I know I got COVID because let me tell you something. When they went on the first night we were behind them, I screamed, "Let's go," so loud. My husband was like, "Girl, you need to like dial it down like 3 notches." I was like, "What? No." I was so excited.
You hear it picked up on the soundboard.
Like me, I just was so in it. I was just like
Uh-huh.
so like just ready. And everybody was like, it was just like, all of us, we were planning on being here, 4 months ago. And
Right.
to have it postponed. And then it was just like it was 420 and
The build up.
just all of it was just
Yeah.
a lot of emotions going on there. And so I've had so many of those moments with Phish where it's like, the buildup is there. It's so exciting. We're so ready to see them, or it's a new venue I've never seen them at.
Mhm.
I remember we went to Homedale and I was like, oh, I hadn't been to that venue before. And I was like, this is a nice venue.
Is it
So
nice?
even those little like differences of the venues, how they interact with each other and how the sound is and what it's going to look like and what's Karuta going to do. Like
Yeah.
all of those things are so interesting and make, listening to a band that's been together for 30 years playing, essentially a large pool of songs, but still the same pool,
Uh-huh.
still interesting. And yeah, it just can't be beat. It's so great.
It
It's
can't.
just amazing. We're gonna see them. When are we seeing them again next?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
We're going to Charleston. I want to say yes. I think it's Charleston.
Gotta
One
hit
is
that one.
we have a couple shows coming up. I know that it's confusing because we're going to Denver to see Tab in 2 weeks actually.
Oh, cool.
Which I'm really excited about. I think it'll be like my 6th or 7th time seeing them. I try to see Tab as much as I possibly can. It's such a for me because they play a lot of Phish songs, It's so different.
Yeah.
And that is always interesting to me too, to see,
The different
the different
chemistry.
chemistry,
Yeah.
even though it's this, they're still playing Ghost or they're still playing whatever,
Right.
and getting to experience it in a different way, like funkier, groovier. They've got a horn section. It's just such a different
More dancey.
energy, more dancey,
Yeah.
more, the bass is always like kicking. It's a lot of all of that, and it's exciting. I've been so angry. I've been so frustrated. People complaining about Tab playing Phish songs. I'm like,
What?
he wrote this. What the
Yeah.
hell? What are you talking about? What
Do
are
we
you
need to remind you what TAB stands for?
What are you
The
talking about?
Trey
It's his man.
Anastasio Band.
He's gonna play his songs. Like, yes. I don't
Yeah.
get it. Also, if you don't like it, you know what you can do? Not go. It's not hard. It's
Yeah.
like it's a
Don't
simple
listen to it.
thing to do. Don't listen. So easy.
So are
So
you hitting any other Phish shows the summer tour? Are you hitting Dick's at all, or
no, we're not. We were gonna go to Dick's, but it's right after. It's like the Chili Peppers is like the first night of Dick's, and it turned into a
Gotcha.
whole thing of us trying to be like, are we really gonna go to this Chili Pepper show? Get on a plane, and it just
Wear
turned
yourself
into
out? Yeah.
yeah. I just was like, I'm too old to do all of that. We've got to like dial it
Too
back a
much.
bit and figure out. We are going to go. I think we're going to. Let me look at the upcoming shows because now I don't even remember which ones we're going to.
Don't remember what
I'm
tickets
like,
you have?
where are we? Yes, it is Charleston. We're going to 2 nights in Charleston, and that's end of May, beginning of June. So we're going to go there.
Coming up.
Yep. I really am hoping Trey adds some more acoustic shows in the fall. So I'm crossing my fingers. Trey, if you hear me, please add a few more
Trey,
shows for us. We need just a couple more.
I think I'm gonna get to hit my first acoustic show because I'm in Michigan and
Oh, you're gonna go to Meyer Gardens?
Grand Rapids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we lived in Grand Rapids for 2
Oh,
years.
did you?
Yeah, and so you're gonna love it. It's a great venue, beautiful
Yeah.
venue, and we saw Tab here in Charlotte the last tour, and that was the tour that everybody kept just dropping like flies. By the end, it was just Trey. Literally, the last show was just him.
Oh,
And when they came here, they had lost the band, the horn section. Jen had gotten COVID, and then the trombone player got COVID, and so they just cut the whole horn section out.
Trey's
And
like, I'll just do it solo, I guess.
literally just, I mean, they lost their drummer. Fishman had to join them for the last 4 shows. That's how
Yeah.
literally they just started like falling off. Their show, the first run of this tour for Tab is the first time that full band has actually been able to play together.
Gotcha.
Because for all of these, somebody was sick, it was like all this stuff. So I know Trey's been really excited because finally this band he put together actually gets to play, right? He spent all this time grabbing the people and putting them in place and getting it ready.
Right.
And finally, so but because of that, the encore here was acoustic, just him. Because they didn't have the horn section. So everybody left the stage. It was just him. He did the whole encore. I hadn't heard him acoustic before. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a whole separate level. I don't know if you have the new album. It's just fantastic. His acoustic
Maybe it's
album
on the
so good.
I'm sure it's on the Phish app.
Oh gosh. I have I bought the vinyl. I love vinyl. So,
oh, cool. Yeah, I've got a little collection
and,
too.
It's just really beautiful. To get to hear his voice in such a clear, like tender, like sweet spot with
Intimate,
him, all of that. I hadn't heard him like that before. So I really if you can, definitely go to the Grand Rapids.
I have to.
It's
in my backyard.
I'm hoping he adds some more because they're not doing much in the fall, so I'm hoping, cross fingers, that he adds a few more acoustic shows because I have a feeling he's going to really enjoy it. And if there's one thing we know about Trey, if he enjoys some shit, he's going to keep doing it. So I'm hopeful that those shows go really well. In Louisville, Cincinnati, Grand Rapids, I think are the 3 that he has. And Interlochen, he's going to Interlochen as well in Michigan. So I'm hopeful that we can see him acoustic as well because that encore alone, I mean, it really whet my appetite. I bought the vinyl so quickly. I was like, he did a whole album. Oh my gosh, I gotta get it. I gotta get it right now. I gotta get it. So yeah, so this tour, I mean, we're gonna go to Charleston, and we're thinking about some other shows. I don't know. We were talking about going to Atlantic City, but I don't know if you've seen the prices for housing there. I mean, literally went from 120 the night before to $800 a night for
For like
just
what, like Airbnbs?
no, just a hotel room in Atlantic City.
See, dude, they
Because those shows, it's like Dick's. They just can sell and sell and sell.
Yeah.
The venue's so huge that
yeah.
there's no limit. And so, of course, this
If
is
they
what
can
happens.
charge it, they're going
They can
to.
charge it, they're going to. So we're just kind of like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm thinking about another show. I don't know which one. It's going to require us to fly. And so I'm just kind of like, which one could we do? I'm
The
thinking,
most bang for your buck.
yeah, like what would be the
Yeah.
thing that we'd want to go do? Maybe the Man, but they're only doing 2 nights there. I wish if they were doing 3 nights,
It would be
we would
worth
go to
it.
Philly, it'd be worth it. But 2,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see. If I'm a betting woman, if I was a betting woman, we'll at least go see at least one more tour stop. I don't know which one. We'll see what transpires as we get
Yeah.
closer to things. But
Because it's like one of those, it's like those game day decisions, and like
yeah,
FOMO
it's
sets in. You're like,
closer, and you're like,
I gotta go.
I could go this week. I'm not even working in July. We could just go up to Connecticut or whatever,
Yeah.
head up to Bethel. Let's go there. Like
Yeah.
whatever it might be. Yeah. So I think we'll see at least one more. I don't know which one, but
Well, if it winds up being, I know you said Dick's is off the table. The other one that I'm going to is Pine Knob. Obviously,
Pine Knob is in the mix because somebody actually hit me up. They have tickets to Pine Knob that they can't use. They wanted to give to me. So that one is in the mix. The miracles are always showing up. That's the other thing too. Because they just will happen. And so I'm open and we'll see what occurs.
So if you wind up making it to Pine Knob, hit me up.
Absolutely.
We'll rate a show together.
Definitely.
And I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. Since I launched this podcast, I've been looking at all of I was like, oh my God, there's a shit ton of other Phish podcasts. You have Attendance Bias, you have
so many
Blackberry Jams,
all
you have
Osiris folks, so many.
So
and it's a little crew. You gotta get RJ on here for sure. He would love to do this show. I think it'll be really fun to hear him answer all these great questions. Those guys are great over at Undermine. They've been so gracious to us too at Blackberry Jams, and everybody has been. They've just been so nice and so wonderful and gracious to us, and it's been wonderful. And season 2 is coming, so shout out to Ben and Jerry's once again for their support. We appreciate you.
Awesome.
We as we say on the show, a shout out to our ice cream overlords.
I love it.
So yeah, we're just at the early pre-production stage right now, so we're just mapping out what the season's going to be, but Lenny and I are really excited to get back into it. I think there's going to be at least one kind of bonus episode where I get to recount my MSG experience.
Okay.
So we've just been trying to find the right time for me to fully, unpack it all and and be ready to talk about it, because it really was intense and beautiful and just
a whale of a time.
Just a whale of a time. Just something. It's one of those things. I said to Drew, everybody was so. If you look at any of the pictures, zoom in and look at the people.
Mm-hmm.
If you see any of the pictures of the night with the the New Year's Eve gag with the dolphins and basically turning MSG into a giant aquarium for all of us, because it was this like, is this happening? Am I tripping?
Am I tripping?
Like, literally, what the fuck is going on right now?
Right.
Because it was staged. It wasn't like everything happened at once. It was like first that they left the stage and they redid everything, and then like they rose up. That was enough for us. I'm not gonna lie. Everybody in that room was like, "Woo, they're up! This is fucking amazing." Then they were projecting onto the bottom of the stage, and we were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" Then the laser show started. We're like, "Oh, lasers! Oh my God, lasers!" Then the dolphins came out, and literally we just were gobsmacked. And then when the whale came, I just threw my hands up. I was like, that just forget it. I don't even, there's no words. What do you say?
What's happening? Yeah.
Whale just went by me in Madison Square Garden. We all were just like, what is happening here? And the greatest thing about most venues is the staff at these venues love when Phish comes. It's their favorite time. I always talk to the staff, and they're always like, nah, Phish is they have the best fans. Y'all are the most fun. You're the most chill. Nobody ever fights. Everything's always like so cool. Y'all tip like mad. Everybody's having a great time. And they always say if it's not there, if that night, the security person in our section, he had been working at MSG for 12 days.
Oh wow.
12 days. And this he got to witness. And he looked at me and was like, sis,
Is this for real?
does this happen every show? I'm like, no, this is
It's
not
special.
the norm, sir. No, do not expect next time Phish comes to see dolphins floating around. That's not typical. No, it is not. You're blessed. And literally you are blessed right now.
Could you imagine though? It's like your second week on the job.
You're like, what the hell is happening in here? Yeah, it was
next level,
just next level. And seeing them continue to push themselves,
right,
in that kind of way is that's not a gag. That is not a gag.
No,
that is
creativity.
That is a production, you know, and so much thoughtfulness to go into it, and the perfect venue to turn into aquarium, and it's already circular, just all of it was so beautiful. And we just all were floating leaving that show, just like literally.
I can only imagine.
It's like, oh my gosh, can you even believe this happened? I kept sending pictures to friends like, what is that?
What's going on?
Is it a hologram? I'm like, nah, bitch, it is not a hologram.
That's what I thought.
Those are drones. They're drones. I can't even. Just the idea of it was so like, wow. And
whenever I first saw it on Instagram, like the next day, that's the first thing I thought. I was like, oh my God, those are drones. And then I was like, no, those look like balloons. And then the shithead in me was like, dude, I'm just gonna watch. I know one of these had to have crashed. I was like, I know that there was something happened.
They did so well with it too. And
it
was cool where we were sitting in the 200s, because I said we were at the like laser level, and because they wanted it to look like an aquarium, they had them like going up and like diving down. And so they were passing us so much because of that. And to really give that effect of like being underwater and everything. And, of course, then they're playing waves. I mean, just all of it was so just the perfect moment. And I don't know, my husband was like, it felt like a swan song. I said, you said that about Big Cypress, you said that about it, you said that about Hampton, you've said that so many times.
You're like, come on, man,
come on, have a little faith,
put your hair down, man,
come on, have a little faith. It's not a swan song, but it is, it could be a peak. There's peaks and valleys all over the place, and
I was
definitely a highlight.
I was cracking up whenever I saw it, because I was looking through it and I was like, wow, this is impressive. And then, I forget what song it was in, whether it was in Waves or Free or whatever. But Trey, like whenever, because his look, he does.
Yes.
And he was like doing like the whale calls and stuff.
Yes.
I don't know what about that like was like the second that I saw it, I was just like, dude, I just started cracking up. I was like, this is so Trey.
Yeah, for them, you like see, the Big Cypress podcast is a really great one. I recommend everyone listen to it, because they talk a lot about, how these like ideas that they just have these like wacky ideas and then see if they can do them. Like they wanted to do Big Cypress in Hawaii and realized it was impossible to fly all of us there. And so they couldn't do that. Right. So like, they wanted to do a 24-hour show, but not tell anybody that it was going to be a 24-hour show. That turned into the Baker's Dozen. So I want to know what was the kernel that got them to a humpback whale flying around Madison Square Garden? Like, where was the conversation that started and ended there? Ended with, yes, we're going to fly a humpback whale around Madison Square Garden.
And knowing them, like, they were just sitting around.
Literally, wouldn't it be cool if I feel like
they start laughing?
And they start laughing, and then it's like, well, we could do it. Well, how would we do it? And then it starts the machine of all of the, the team, the great team that they work with to put on these productions. But
the logistics
of it all and what it's going to be like and all of those things. But I imagine standing up there and watching all of our reaction to this thing that they planned for us must have been pretty big highlight for them.
Yeah, it had to have been.
Yeah.
I wish I could have seen it, but I'm glad that you got to, and I'm glad everyone else that was there got to see it.
All of us in COVID. It was in the building.
It's worth it. The trade-off. Once again, I'm glad that you guys are, even though you did get it, I'm glad you're safe and
Yes.
doing good. And thanks again for taking the time to be on the show.
Thanks for
If you're
having me.
listening and you have not checked out the Blackberry Jams podcast, do it. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever you get
It's out there.
your stuff, Instagram. Give them a follow, give them a listen. And Leslie, thank you so much for taking the time. It was
Thanks
a
for
pleasure meeting
having
you.
me. So great to
Pleasure
meet
talking
you.
Phish.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So great.
hopefully.
Congrats on the show. I love the
Thank you.
format of it. I meant to tell you, I think I listened like 3 or 4 episodes, and I love the intimacy of just talking to somebody about their personal connection to Phish.
Yeah.
No one's doing that. So kudos to you for having such a great
Thank you.
idea. It's so much in the spirit of the fandom, and also I love your logo. So
Thank you. Simple. Hoping I don't get hit with the copyright on that.
I don't know. Fishman will be all right. He'll be good.
Yeah, he's okay.
He's the coolest one. He's good.
Yeah, it's his moo, so it's
Absolutely.
Okay.
I like him breasting out new colors this year. It's
I
pretty
know. Yeah, getting vibrant with the
Yeah.
blues and the greens
Blues
and
and
all.
all that.
Yeah,
pretty sweet.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you at Pine Knob. I'm gonna put
Yes.
that out there, and
Yes.
we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.